The Agent Workforce podcast is back after our summer break, and we're starting season 2, and this is our 15th episode. I am Kristiina Åberg. I lead marketing at Digital Workforce, and with me is my amazing co-host, Niko Lehtonen, AI solution architect at Digital Workforce. How are you doing, Niko? Good to see you after the summer break.
Yeah, I'm good. Fully recharged after so many weeks of holiday, and it's taken a while to catch up to everything that's been going on, as we're going to see in this episode as well. But yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great as well. Thanks. Good to be back and welcome everyone back to our podcast. And in this podcast, we explore the evolving landscape of AI agents and their role in particular in transforming business automation. But with that, we're also covering what's happening, what are the rapid advancements in AI, particularly in LLMs, generative AI, because those have, of course, massive impact in building AI agents, but our focus will be in enterprise AI agents for most parts. So my summer, I had a fairly short break, but I managed to start 2 books, not finish those though yet, because I didn't get physical copies easily delivered. I have one physical copy of a book, but then the other one is an audiobook, and that's by Karen Howe, as I mentioned in our season finale, and that's the Empire AI. That's giving readers an inside look at like pivotal moments in the history of AI and what has happened in OpenAI and how are the main characters in this AI space connected back from the history. So it's super fascinating and interesting read in case you're interested in the main characters and what are the connections behind and what actually happened when Sam Altman was ousted and how he came back, and super like big twists that had taken place in the past years. But yeah, that's with me. In today's episode, we'll talk about GPT-5, of course, that has been long anticipated release from OpenAI. We'll also talk about Google's updates, particularly something around world models, and then Genie 3. And then we'll talk about Microsoft's study and then AI agents and what has happened in that front. But with that, let's get started. GPT-5, the long-awaited was released on the 7th of August, and their release notes say that it's a unified system, and we were expecting that to take place, that how can we get rid of the model selector tool that was, to some people, quite difficult to grasp that what's the right model to choose in what use cases. And it sounded like a great idea, I have to admit, but I was a little bit shocked as well when this was released and I didn't have the choice anymore to go back to my preferred O3 model. And that choice has been reverted back since, because there was huge backlash, particularly from the power users that didn't have the control anymore to choose the model. But that was one of the main updates. It has also, of course, a lot of reasons behind, because not most people know which model to use for which use cases, which results in a lot of like compute use for OpenAI. That's not necessary in all of the cases. And plus, there was a striking fact that Sam Altman tweeted a few days ago that it's only before like the plus, which is the 20 euros per month level. And only 7% of the plus users were using reasoning models previously. But now with this update, it has quickly risen to 24%. So that's like an indication that people really didn't know what were the models and how to use those. So there are, of course, reasons for that change. But what else was new, according to their release notes, is that it's a smarter, more widely useful model, particularly good in coding, creative expression and writing, and health. And that's something we have discussed in this podcast earlier as well, that how people are using these tools, whether that's a good or a bad thing, and whether you should really put your personal data into these tools. But these are incredible tools to assist you in your health-related queries, whether that's for like mental health or like physical health, and a lot of updates in this front. But before I move on, any initial reflections, Niko? Have you used GPT-5, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I got to use it for just a little bit before they reverted the auto update, and like many of the others, I was disappointed that somebody else was, or something else was deciding what kind of a model I want to use. Because usually the questions I ask are not ones that the fast models are going to solve, at least very reliably. And I need to be able to trust the output that's coming there. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my time. So yeah, very happy that they reverted so quickly. And I tried it with Cursor, and based on my, well, very limited experience this week, it's been working very well. I haven't had to modify the code at all myself.
Yeah.
I've just been giving instructions, and of course I'm also better at using Cursor than I was 6 months ago, and so on. But it was able to do what I needed very quickly and without doing any errors within the code or any features that I wasn't asking and so on. So positive experience so far, all in all.
Yeah. Maybe it was not like the massive change that some folks were expecting, but I have to say that I'm quite happy, and there's much less hallucinations, at least in the conversations I have had, and I'm getting used to GPT-5 now choosing the right model for me. I sometimes go back to my preferred old legacy models, but I kind of like it. I like the style. And with the right kind of prompting, where I say that you need to think really deep, or I can, of course, choose that particular model as well. But I mean, there is something to this, and I'm quite fond of it. So yeah, but the jury is still out, I guess. There, what's going to be the verdict? And some people felt that they were a little bit disappointed, expecting a lot bigger updates what comes to that. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out to be. But I have to say that I'm quite fond of this new model, and I think I will be using that for most parts going forward. And this is also available in Microsoft Copilot already now, which is quite nice if you are using Microsoft Copilot. So you can choose GPT-5 from there.
Yeah, and I mean, OpenAI do update it in the background all the time, or at least have already updated quite a couple of times, because GPT-5, at least the fast model, failed the strawberry test. If you did it with blueberries, it said blueberry has 3 R's in it. And then then they fixed that, and then somebody tried, what if you ask about blueberries and not just the singular form? And again, it made the same mistake. So I hope they're not patching these one thing at a time, but doing something more holistic in the background. But even after that was fixed, some sources were saying that in the WhatsApp, where you can also use ChatGPT, it's still not fixed. So is it using a different version of the model there? I don't know. But just, I know it's not the greatest way to measure the impact or the performance of a model, but of course, it's one of those things that builds trust in the outcome. If it can't even do simple things, then, why would you trust it in others?
So we are still very much with this dilemma of jagged intelligence, as they call it, that these tools are unbelievably good in very complex things, but then there are just some simple things that they still can't solve, that even a child will immediately spot that it's not going to be like this.
Yeah.
So we're still in the era of not perfection, but jagged intelligence. So yeah, if we still spend a few moments with OpenAI and what has come out from OpenAI in the past few months. So they also introduced something called agent mode, which is quite impressive, and you can turn that on and it will do things on your behalf. But I'm, at least with my searches, that I can give it a task to do certain kind of searches, and it will go and perform those online and compile that into whatever I request. But it's definitely visibly hitting limits from Cloudflare, and they announced they maintain like 20% of the internet traffic, and they introduced these blocks for GenAI tools to go and like freely visit their client websites. And at least I'm seeing this happening live in front of my face when I give some agent tasks for ChatGPT. So we'll see how that turns out to be. And also maybe mention something about connectors that were introduced earlier in the summer and also are available in Finland now. But those, you have to be very mindful of using those in the company context. And that's something that IT departments will, of course, choose on that. Will you give access to your Outlooks and Teams and Google Drives and HubSpots and Dropbox to really get data from those sources? And even if you don't allow ChatGPT to use that data for training purposes, or there's not memory on, you still have to be very, very mindful and get the permission from your IT to use that. So any thoughts on these?
Yeah, I mean, I've not tried the features myself. I've been thinking of whether, letting ChatGPT use my Outlook for RAG purposes would help me in some way. But so far, I've not done it. That's probably going to be the first thing to try out if I feel the need to go for it.
Yeah, personal, you mean, of course.
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Google updates and something. Let's start with something called World Model. I'm going to share my screen. I also had the GPT-5 release notes here earlier, but we covered those. So I'm just gonna, and also the Sam Altman's tweet about the users from how they're using reasoning models and how they've seen a major uptake now with the GPT-5 release. But this is what I want to talk about now, and that's something called World Model. It's a concept that if you follow Demis Hassabis, he's the CEO of Google DeepMind, so the AI arm of Google. And so he's repeatedly talking about something of a concept called world model. And like I said, he refers to that quite often, and we haven't talked about that before in this podcast. So I thought that let's spend a few minutes to break down what they mean by that concept and why that might make a big difference going forward. So that is an AI system designed to understand the physics and structure of the real world. So that includes comprehending how things work, the properties of materials, liquids, even the behaviors of living objects, animals, human beings. So essentially, it's a model that can simulate aspects of the world based on its understanding, allowing AI agents as well to predict how an environment will evolve and how their actions will affect it. And according to Hassabis, this will be a crucial point towards AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, a term that comes across quite often as well. Of course, now people talk about super intelligence as well, but AGI is something that has been previously the main goal, and why this concept of a world model is so important, according to Hassabis, in the path to reach AGI, is that an AGI system must understand the physical world, not just language and mathematics, in order to operate effectively within, which of course makes a lot of sense. And it will be very much needed to enable robotics. So embodied AI, which we'll see massively growing in the coming years. And it's also learning from experience. So the focus on world model represents a shift from AI's learning primarily from human-provided data to systems that learn by interacting with their environments, so through trials and errors. So there's just they're grounding their experience of language in real-world experience and building a more robust and generalized intelligence by piggybacking on language. And this is and also it's sort of unlimited training environment. So they're a key stepping stone to AGI because they make it possible to train AI agents in an unlimited curriculum of rich simulation environments. Why we're talking about this world model now is that you've been hearing that term by Hassabis over the years, but Google has advanced a lot on this front, and they have announced or introduced Genie 3 lately. Genie is their model, and they have in Genie these foundation world models, and it's been previously introduced in Genie 1, Genie 2, and most recently in Genie 3. And Genie 3 was launched last week, and let me share that as well here. And this is not available. I haven't tried this myself, so it's only for research use, and some chosen people have access to that. But it is quite mind-blowing what you can create with this Genie 3 model. And you can find the use cases on their pages. And let me just scroll down here. So what actually it is doing is that it's not just like text video model typical, but it's a real-time world model that turns a short text or image prompt into a navigable 3D scene that streams 720p, preserving the stage and layouts for minutes. And you can just, it's unbelievable what you can do with that. It's, you just prompt it and it knows how the world behaves. You can change the direction and it will know that like organically, not you teaching or showing what to do. And that's pretty staggering and mind-blowing in a way. And when they will make this available to larger audience and how they're able to model the physical properties of the world. And this is also something that Hassabis mentioned, that when they released VO3, the best and the most recent video model of within Google Gemini as well. So it's just somehow knows how to model the world on its own. And they don't really know exactly why this happens, but it happens. So yeah, any thoughts on this, Niko?
Well, I mean, one thing that comes to my mind is one of the killer apps for VR for the longest time has been Google, was it Google World or something? It's like you're using Street View, but with VR glasses.
Yeah.
But if you combine it with this and consider all the material that they have available on the how a city is built and what does it look like and so on, you could actually start moving around in another city anywhere across the world. Just an example, so you could provide these more realistic or very realistic virtual reality tourism experiences to people, for instance, who cannot travel.
Yeah.
And of course, from a gaming perspective, obviously YouTube has a load of gaming videos there. So I don't wonder that one of these examples here is a 3D platformer of a cute dog running on a rainbow road. Just goes to show what it can already do, and I'm curious to see what this will look like in a year when it's probably going to get available for users to do and so on.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, the advantage that Google has with its hugely popular tools and wide range of tools and data they have also within YouTube is, of course, enabling the development of these amazing new models. But if you're interested in knowing more, I recommend, I really like Demis Hassabis myself and the way he's explaining things and his perspective. But there's this brand new release notes, Google for Developers channel on YouTube, where he's like breaking down what they have released recently and is talking a lot about world models and also Genie 3, and then something else if you want to dive deeper into Genie 3 and what is Genie 3, you can go and check out the release notes on DeepMind.google, and there you can find Genie 3, a new frontier for world models. Yes, so that's our updates with Google, and people are expecting Google to come up with a new model as well. So some are speculating that they were expecting OpenAI to release GPT-5, and they're coming up with something even better now in the short time ahead of us. We'll see when that happens and what will it be. But I have to say that I'm just like I was explaining to you earlier, Niko, that I'm also a big fan of Gemini, and I use that a lot. Maybe 30-40% of my AI use is on Google Gemini, and it is a very, very strong model. Like we were playing around with the VO3 tool with you, Niko, earlier, that just you can prompt it to create like astonishing videos. So far, it's only 8 seconds and 3 videos you can create per day with the subscription I have. But if you have the Ultra, the highest subscription level, so then you can create more, of course. Yeah, it's a strong model for sure. Then we had an update from XAI, Grok 4, but I don't have much information on that. Have you tried that, Niko, yourself, or anything to share there?
No, I've not tried that. I usually stick to the ones that are available in the Microsoft environment because I know they're safe for company use, and for the data I process there. And Microsoft's AI Foundry only has Grok 3 available at this point, so Grok 4 has not appeared there yet. When that happens, I'll be sure to give it a go.
Yeah, I wonder why it had a lot of controversy during the launch, but apparently a strong model that as well. All right, let's move on to Microsoft and what they have announced quite recently based on a study that's called Working with AI, Measuring the Occupational Implications of GenAI. And there's a PDF that goes into the study is focusing measuring the occupational implications of GenAI by analyzing real-world usage data, identifying how specific work activities people use AI for, and this is particularly based on Microsoft Copilot data, and they have analyzed 200,000 anonymized conversations from Microsoft Bing Copilot, now Microsoft Copilot, and conversations sampled over a 9-month period from January 2024 to 30th September 2024 in the US. So almost a year ago were the final samples taken from this one. So it's pretty old, the data. And the users of Microsoft Bing Copilot were the ones taking part or that creating the sample data for this study. But maybe something we can bring up from this study is that it's including some job roles that are facing AI disruption. It's not to say that these roles will be fully replaced by AI, but according to the conversations Bing users have had, these roles have had the major impact of AI and how it's had disrupted. And as number one position, there are interpreters and translators and historians, 3 passenger attendants, which is quite weird, 4 sales representatives of services, 5 writers, authors, and so forth. But and then on the other hand, on the top 10 jobs, say from GenAI, do you want to pronounce the first one? Do you know how to say that, Niko?
Yeah. Lobotomos. No, I can't. Lobotomist.
Yeah, okay, thanks. As the number 2 nursing assistants and 3 hazardous materials remover workers, helpers, painters, plasters, embalmers. I don't know that one either, but yeah, a lot of physical world related jobs.
It's what they do to mummies. So literally embalming.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
not much AI can do there at this point.
No, until we have embodied AI in a form of a robot that will do that task, but it'll take a few years until we reach that point, I'm sure. But yeah, it's nothing majorly new in this study, but if you're interested, again, like big data sets and real world data from Microsoft Copilot and how it's impacting perhaps your role or some other roles, it's something you may want to look into. I think it still has not been peer reviewed, but you can find the study on Microsoft.com. But yeah, maybe still on the translators and the interpreters is according to my experience and our experience, we haven't really used translators anymore in the past 2 or 3 years because the models have been so good. We're getting rid of hallucinations more and more, and that's of course affecting. It's not to say that that role will be completely taken over by AI, at least at this point, because there are certain areas where you will need official approved by human translator, whether that's in medicine or in pharmaceuticals or whatever. Of course, there will be humans needed, at least at this point, to really verify and put the stamp on it that this is accurate. But in my experience and in our experience, it has reduced almost completely the need for any translator services. Any comments on this? What about the historians? That's an interesting number 2 there.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose since so much has been written about history, you can just feed that stuff. make a specialized model or just give it as context and set the role to be a historian, and you can get lots of different things. But, these are all jobs that are affected by AI heavily. It doesn't mean that they're going to be removed by AI.
No, totally. That is an important point.
But
Yes.
yeah, I can definitely see why there's going to be a large change in how these things are going to be done in the future. On number 10, I have to comment broadcast announcers and radio DJs. On that note, I think it was last week, some US court did their announcements with purely AI instead of using an announcer. So for some public purpose, I can't remember what I tried to look for it, but I couldn't find it at this point. But they had an AI court announcer. And so it was purely AI. It was a person on the screen talking about the case and so on. So yeah, there's an example of where things can be going. And I don't think it's going to take long before we have a news broadcast where it's going to be an AI doing all that, like, on TV.
No, because on radio that's already like happening. But yeah, no, it depends how people will perceive this, and if they want real humans to be there like real people. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it might be that maybe it's for a younger generation, might be different type of news and so on, so on. We're going to start somewhere. It's just a matter of what it's going to be.
Yes. So Niko, give us some updates from the Agentic AI and enterprise AI agent fronts. What has been happening during the summer and what's taking place right now?
Yeah. So pretty much in early July or late June, UiPath opened up their AI agent certificate path. And I can happily say I'm well on that path and have gone through the first step, which is the associate level. So that was maybe a 15, 20-hour course about what the agentic features in UiPath's toolset are, how do they work, what kind of things can you do there. And I can say it was very, very useful is very, very useful for anyone who hasn't used any of those yet. Obviously, I had used a lot of those already, but I learned some new things as well. Like, I like the way they're doing the evaluation part within the tool itself. There's its own framework for it, which is really good. It's really important.
Why? And, can you, to our listeners, can you explain why you feel that's important?
They have taken the stance that's common from RPA, that how much testing matters. And of course, with AI, it's different. So you need to test the same scenario multiple times over. And the more complex the scenario is, the more times you need to test it over and over to make sure that the end result and the outcome is exactly what it should be. So they've made this to be a part of the tool set there, that you can create these mass volume tests for these scenarios and check that the LLMs do exactly what they should.
That sounds really important, of course, and is quite maybe a differentiator from some of the tools out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, these evals have been possible to do with LangSmith, LangFuse, and so on, but this UiPath tool is from a process automation perspective. So it's literally about the repeatability of the thing, and not just understanding the token usage and not just understanding the reasoning why things are happening.
Yes.
But also just looking at, you're going to save a lot of time running something 30 times in a row rather than doing it one by one and always modifying it a bit. You can see all the things that are happening simultaneously. And it's just made very easy for people who are not that technical. So that's good. It's gonna suit a lot of people. And so there's also going to be a certification exam later in the month or next month, I think, for anyone who has done that associate part. But can highly recommend, if you have anything to do with UiPath or are curious about the UiPath stuff, you don't need to access the cloud environment even to complete the thing. So you can just take it as a learning experience if you want to. And on another note, the discovery workshops are ongoing more and more with our customers, and it's really interesting to see how different the approaches are among the customers. So the management might have chosen a different target area for the adoption of agentic AI. So for some, it might be their legal team. For some, it might be their finances team. Obviously, usually the first one to take because of the huge volumes in all companies. And the level of aspiration is also very different. Some are just looking for how do we get the most out of Copilot as a personal productivity tool for this small team, so we don't need to hire another person that's going to be very expensive. Or then it's about just transforming the whole end-to-end process and figuring out just how much can AI facilitate that. And so there's very different levels, and this is already visible just in Finland, and then of course in the UK and so on. It's pretty much the same thing. And of course, Finland as a country is more reserved to trying out these kinds of new things or funneling money in the way that, for instance, companies in the US would do. And it's just a culture thing. So I think that's why the Discover workshops have been working so well in Finland, especially because it means that you don't have to commit to a project without understanding what it's actually going to provide for you and what it's going to mean to get there.
Yes, yeah, that's an important step. But we'll hear more of generalized findings and your uptakes from these workshops. We have had many of those already, and we'll have many more now in this month and next months to come. And these are discovery workshops for agentic AI in particular within the process automation space. Yes, I think, did you have anything and any other updates you wanted to share from the agentic AI front? Everything we should cover here before we wrap up?
I will say this is it for now. Next time we can talk about the UiPath Agent Hackathon that was recently.
Yes, and we'll hopefully have some folks from the UiPath in the podcast as well, and some other guest speakers now during the season 2. So we'll have other perspectives in addition to ourselves. Something I want to mention here in the end is that we held a webinar in July the 16th, and that's how agentic automation transforms customer experience in PMI claims. So this is targeted to the insurance company and personal medical insurance claims in particular. But this is something that's available as a recorded session on digitalworkforce.com. And if you go to news and resources and webinars, so you can register and take a look at this webinar. And it got a lot of good feedback, particularly if you work within insurance or are interested in agentic AI and AI agents in that content. It's a warm recommendation to go and check this webinar out. All right, I think that's all for now from me, and really good to be back and chatting what's going on in the fast-moving AI and AI agent space, and we'll continue from here. And thanks all for listening, and have a great continuation of August, and speak to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.